Welcome to OnScreen English with Steve Marshall. Lesson 26 is on modal auxiliary verbs for obligation, must and have to. I must eat less junk food. I have to write an essay once a week. Let's think about the concept for these two sentences. Is the obligation coming from the speaker or is it external? For the first sentence, the obligation is from the speaker. It's personal. For the second sentence, it's what we call external obligation. I have to follow the rules. Here are the different forms for must and have to for obligation. I've divided it into obligation from the speaker and external obligation. And I'll be looking at present, past, and future. So let's look first at obligation from the speaker in the present. Affirmative, I must study harder. Negative, you don't have to study harder. Negative, you mustn't smoke in the building. There's a difference in meaning between the two negative forms. If you say you don't have to study harder, it means it's not necessary. But if you say you mustn't smoke in the building, it means it's prohibited. External obligation in the present. Affirmative, I have to or I have got to do a lot of homework. Negative, I don't have to or I haven't got to do much homework. Have got to and haven't got to are more common in British English. Obligation from the speaker in the past. I had to make such an effort last term. Affirmative. I didn't have to make an effort last term. Negative. External obligation. Affirmative. I had to do a lot of homework last term. Negative. I didn't have to do a lot of homework last month. Future. Obligation from the speaker. Affirmative. I must study harder. This can imply future meaning. Also affirmative. I have to or I will have to study harder next term. And negative. I won't or I don't have to study harder next term. And external obligation in the future. Affirmative, I have to or I will have to do a lot of homework next term. And negative, I won't or I don't have to do a lot of homework next term. And here's one final point. We often use need to instead of have to because the meanings are similar. For the task, fill in the gaps in the sentences below with the form of must or have to, and make sure to use the correct form, past, present or future, affirmative or negative. Here are the answers. 1. I must quit smoking, but I lack self-discipline. 2. When I was a child, I had to do extra homework every night. My parents made me. 3. Next term, he has to or will have to take 5 exams. He will have no choice. 4. My sister has to take extra vitamin D or vitamin D every day. Her doctor told her to. 5. Students mustn't smoke inside any buildings. It's forbidden. 6. I don't have to wake up early as I live next to the school. I'm so glad it's not necessary. Here's a summary of the lesson. Use must when the sense of obligation comes from the speaker. Must has no past or future form for obligation. Use other modal auxiliary verbs. I must give up smoking. Use have to when the sense of obligation is external, from someone or something else. For example, I have to take this medicine for 2 weeks. Have got to is an alternative to have to, especially in British English. I've got to take this medicine for 2 weeks. Need to is an alternative to have to, as the meanings are close. For example, I need to take this medicine for 2 weeks. See OnScreen English, Lesson 28, Modal Auxiliary Verbs for necessity, need to and needn't. Thank you, that's all for now. If you'd like to see the related video, OnScreen English, Lesson 28, Modal Auxiliary Verbs for necessity, need to and needn't, please click on the link.